So today we're going to show you guys how to repair the structure in your old house. So we're here in our old farmhouse, 1880s, with trees as structure. But it doesn't really matter what kind of house you have. If you're watching this video, it's because something has happened in your home and you've got to be creative with repairing your structure. A lot of times people don't understand that just because you have structure doesn't mean it's good structure. If you have a span that's more than 16 feet, you need a support post going down to carry the load. What we have here is a really old house, and they made these trees go clear across the whole 25 feet of the house. And so what you'll see in a lot of old houses is the roof will actually start to cave in because the whole house is literally falling in the middle. In this situation, we bought a house that needs a lot of work, and the perimeter of the house is, it's held up pretty good. They've got a lot of posts on the beams on the outside of the wall, but down through the middle of the house, they've got an old cistern here. They got the odd 2x4 slapped in. This one isn't supported at all. And so it's actually starting to crack, and it's showing a lot of signs of wear. So before we get our structural engineer in this project to tell us how to fix this up, we want to get some temporary support in here and shore this up so that it doesn't fall apart in the meantime. So the way we do this is actually pretty straightforward. If you have a car jack, I would highly recommend buying one if you don't. Messing around with this kind of stuff without the proper tools is actually kind of dangerous. Now, what we have here is a 3-ton jack, and it's for basically automotive purposes, but we use this on structure all the time, and it is an absolute lifesaver. So what you do is you take a 4x4 post. You can use this kind of post to carry a deck on a second story or something like that, and you just set up the jack and give it a lift until it's gently in place. Set it beneath the beam. All right, now it's carrying load. Make sure you take a little bit of time to understand your jack. When you turn it all the way one way, you engage the lifting mechanism, and when you turn it left, it will collapse on you. So you don't want to be just right on the hair and grab it by accident and give it a bit of a twist and have everything you do fall down on your head. So be careful here. This is, it's necessary to be sober. And we give this a lift. And you hear that? Listen for the house. It's going to be making some moaning and groaning noises. There we go. Now we know we have movement. So this particular tree is on a post on either end of the 20-foot span. And if I'm just lifting the middle, I run the risk of taking all the load on the whole beam and lifting this beam up, and then the other two posts will be disengaged. So this is why this process takes some time, okay? What we want to do is we want to carry weight, know that we're picking up load, and then put our temporary post in right away. And then the process is over time, usually 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks. In an old house, you come down every weekend, you take your wrench and you'll tighten up the nuts and you slowly lift it all together nice and level. So let's just go through this process. Maddie, let's put the post in front just for the camera. It goes on a plate, okay? So the post comes in 2 sections. The base section has these 2 slots here. And this is where the pins go, okay? I have seen so many posts in my life where all they do is set one right there. Let's line that up. Yeah, I know, it's got to be perfect.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, now hold it there. Okay, now that is pretty too tight. Let's get it down a little bit. We'll line up these holes here. Perfect. Okay. Now, we're just going to put, this is going to line up the holes. And it's an alternating hole pattern. And you put the pins in both sides. All right, this is correct. And set it down a little bit. This is incorrect. I don't know how many times I've seen this. Almost everywhere I go, I see this. One shear pin. Anybody who's ever owned a snowblower, there's a shear pin on each side. They don't just rely on one pin. If I do it this way, I'm relying on the shear strength of one pin to hold up my house. Lift this up a little bit. We line this up properly. I'm relying on 2 shear pins, and it's from the different sides of the column. Double the strength, double your fun, right? This is how you want to do this. These just get twisted on here. You don't have to reef them on with a wrench or anything. It's just designed to keep this from sliding out. Now, we also have a top plate, right, which goes in here. And what we want to do, we want to try to set this up where we're as close to as we can get. okay? We have all of this thread available so that over time, as we're twisting this with our wrench, we're slowly lifting the house. Now this drops in, you can see it actually sits in the cradle right there, so that nothing's sliding around. Okay, that's not quite where I want it to go, so I'm going to lift the house one more time.
We can get a hammer too.
If you want to hammer it over, use a block so you're putting the post and the bracket. Okay.
Touchdown.
We want to be as close to level as we can get here without being too worried about it, all right? Once you have this snugly in place, it's not just going to pop out on you. Now, before we take the pressure off this post, we want to make sure that the top and bottom plate are secured there. In the event you're walking through the area, let's say you got a load of lumber and you turn around, you don't want to do a Three Stooges moment and knock this thing out of the way. Okay? What I'm going to do here real quick is just use my ram set. I'm going to throw a nail into the concrete. If you haven't seen this before, great tool. Load your nail, the orange gasket holds it in place. Then put in your explosives. Set it together over top of the hole. Compress and then pull the trigger. There you go. That's directly in the concrete and it's not going to be going anywhere. Okay, and on the top, you want to just throw in a couple of, I'm using structural screws because I got a great shear strength. And I'm just putting one on each side in the corners. Again, so this can't be knocked out of position. And you can do this over and over again throughout your whole basement. Then what you want to do, once you get all your posts in place, you can take a couple of squares and you can double check the thickness of your beams. Okay, here we go. It's like a slide rule, flush up against the ceiling. And we're hanging, this one is at 7 5/8. We'll come over here and we'll check this one out. This one's at 7. All right. Since we're dealing with trees, not dimensional lumber, every one of these is different. So if you put a level on it, this one's also at 7 5/8. So I have to add, that one's 7 5/8 to 7. I got to add 5/8. Turns out they're almost level now. Isn't that amazing? Okay, because remember, we're measuring from the floor. So when you're putting in your structural posts, remember basic rules. Temporary structure, put in your post, secure it, use 2 pins, give yourself lots of room up here. Because what we're going to want to do, next week I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to do one turn now just to demonstrate. This is just a pair of pliers, okay? It doesn't take a whole lot of strength. And just come in here, do a half turn. Half turn a week. Over the course of a couple of months, you can have this raised up 2 inches if necessary. Take your time, let the wood get stretched out, and then it'll relax. And you can lift it some more and stretch it out, and then it'll relax. If you do too much at once, you run the risk of snapping and breaking your boards, and then you're in a brand new world of hurt. You can grab 4x4 for me. Now what we do is grab the handle and release. Put all that weight on this post. All right? Done. Now, we got to do that to the rest of the house. Make sure to check out all the videos on our modern rustic farmhouse remodel, and don't forget to subscribe.